Hey there, welcome to another episode of RocketMSP podcast, the show that asks the tough questions of the vendors. Today I'm joined by Harry Brelsford from SMB Nation. Harry, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. So, hey, I know we've only got about 25 minutes of your time, so I want to just dive right in. I've got tons of questions. Um, First question, what is the best strain of weed?
That's actually a good question. I'm not really conversant on the lifestyle side. I ironically, my job, well, what I hope will become my job is I want to be a technology analyst in the cannabis technology space. By analogy, a Wall Street analyst, although I don't track stocks, but you get the idea.
Mhm.
And my girlfriend doesn't know what I do, so I turn on CNBC and I show her. But the point is this, Steve, to answer your question, it's a big industry,
Mhm.
and
It really
I'm
is.
really not conversant on the lifestyle side, the flower side, and so on. I can tell you, and I'm pretty open about this. The preference I have coming from Seattle is what I call more medicinal use or a sleeping aid.
Mhm.
My peanut butter cup,
Yeah.
my peanut butter cup at night. A lot of people take gummies, and I'll answer it the best I can. It would be indica. Okay, so the indica, it's not one of the strains like Maui Wowie or Purple
Mhm.
Diesel. It's not that, but there's sativa and there's indica, and indica is a sleeping aid. It makes you. It's called sofa lock, and I haven't slept this well up until several years ago when I started. Steve, it was decades. That waking up at 2 a.m. Right, typical entrepreneur. That little anxiety at 2 a.m. I sleep like a baby. So to answer your question, the strain I like is indica.
All right. So let's talk about some real stuff now. Um, so we just had Minnesota, and there was a New England state that just passed legislation as well. Do you remember which one?
I think it was Delaware. I
That
track
sounds
as
right.
yeah, I track as best I can. You may nail me, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Delaware.
So I'm going to pop this map up kind of over top of me. So this here is a map of the United States, and all of the blue states are recreational, green states are medicinal. If it has a red D in the middle of the state, that means it's been decriminalized. And all the gray states are states where uh, I believe it's all just illegal, or whatever the right term would be. So, with that said, 23, I believe, states are legal in some form or fashion.
Correct.
So with that, that means I feel like there's a huge opportunity here for MSPs. Or am I wrong? Has the opportunity already passed?
Oh no, no, it hasn't passed, and there is a long term opportunity. Here's our challenge, and I'm kind of glad you framed it up that way. That this is a long term play, like many niches that MSPs got into. Remember HIPAA and electronic medical records, and it takes time.
Mhm.
It takes time, and this is going to take time. Where we're at today is, you do have some public policy issues, of course, but more importantly, we are in a severe down round. We way overcapitalized in 2019, like 1999 with the dot-com community, right? The smart money chasing stupid ideas. And we all know what happened in 2000, right? The
Mhm.
market crashed. And that's essentially what happened here is we got way overcapitalized. So, people hired way too many people. Now there's layoffs at the big players in Canatech. And it resembles other industries, of course, but the challenges, and I just had this talk this morning. In fact, someone in Minnesota at a not-for-profit. I said, long story short, a pound of weed in California used to sell for $1,600. Today, it's at $400 because of overproduction and overcapitalization. So entities in California are broke. They're not making money. The growers can't make money. I mean, it's like being a farmer. You can't make money. And it just goes all the way down the supply chain, and then some of that supply chain goes out the back door. This industry comes from the black market, so they've been known to slip the excess out the back door, and it all has the effect of a multi-year correction. Now, that said, Steve, to be optimistic and return to the beginning of the conversation in this segment, it's a great opportunity, but I'm viewing it as a decade opportunity, and it could be a couple of years before we normalize this early growth stage market, right? We have to come back to normalization like .com did, right? It came back with
Mhm.
LinkedIn and Netflix. Same here. You just have to be really patient. Now, the good news is, if you had the wisdom to buy early in some of those post.com stocks, well, I wouldn't be working. I mean, I wouldn't be on this podcast, right?
Right. Very true. Very true.
So that's my thinking.
So with Minnesota passed legislation, so I believe August is when things, I guess, go into effect for them. So how quickly should MSPs be working to get in front of cannabis companies, or are the companies already like ready to go? They just haven't flipped the switch because they were waiting on the legislation.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. What I've found in this industry, and I go back about 6 years,
Hmm.
are arguably about four in my analyst role. And what I found is it's a slow roll, which is good. Um,
Hmm.
and so let's take Minnesota, and I'm going to just speculate. But if you're coming online in about a month and in August, A, you're not too late. B, you should probably be circulating with the different trade shows and trade groups. It's like any industry. We have all that. Just Google it. Um, and start to circulate like we all did when we built our practices and tech. But it's going to take a couple of years. My experience has been like California still hasn't straightened it out, right? They're, I think, 6, 7, 8 years in, and they don't have enough dispensary licenses. Like New York City, they have a lot of illegal shops. As you drive down the street in LA, right down by the airport, a lot of those are illegal shops, and you probably read about New York City has a
I
lot of
haven't.
those.
I never would have imagined that. Really,
Yeah, yeah,
that blows my mind because, like, I mean, I guess you could just rent a storefront space, put up a sign, and start selling stuff, and wait until somebody comes in to try to uh, regulate or do some type of inspection or whatever. Right?
yeah,
That's basically what they're doing?
yeah, and they don't have enough resources, and then these shops will just move down the street. Okay, so that does happen, but they're they're in business in about 2 weeks down the street in another storefront.
See,
So,
and in my ignorance, I would be too terrified to do something like that
well, I,
because
I am too.
I assume that, like, if they catch you operating an illegal business, you get a jail.
Theoretically, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, theoretically, but these are bad actors. Now,
Mm,
again, not everybody, but the point I was making is you're not too late, and
okay.
I don't know exactly the rollout plans for Minnesota, but assume it's going to take a year. Every other state I've seen, it takes 1 to 2 years. So after your August date, the time clock starts ticking, right? They got to build out the facility, get the permits, do the this, do the that. So it's a great time to get in on the ground floor. But yeah, you haven't missed the boat.
Good. Very good. So, what are some misconceptions or challenges that MSPs might encounter when working with clients in Canatech?
Well, let's talk about that. I guess I would say that you need to have domain expertise. That always kind of stand. I mean, I'll get to these cannabis entities are nothing more than an SMB. Okay, that's all they
Mhm.
are. That said, it's in a specific niche, and you need domain expertise. And I'm thinking of a MSP in New York City. He still runs the good old fashioned SBS user group.
Oh man.
Yeah, they meet up online once a month. Michael Klein. Well, last time I really had a good chat with him, he only does law firms. And so he's got a vertical. And the reason that's cool is he knows time slips, he knows the application layer. And my career was that way. Behind me, you're seeing, my claim to fame is Windows Server, the box shot right there. Well, that's what I was. And I wasn't in a vertical like Department of Defense. I was in a product vertical. Um, but there's nothing like expertise. And I think that's going to be critical for an MSP to understand. They got to get their head into this vertical. Number two, you got to kind of fit in. So, you'll notice I'm today I dressed up and put on a collared shirt for you, but do not wear a suit jacket and God forbid a tie in
Mhm.
this vertical going out to the dispensaries, the manufacturers, and the grows, right? They're
You're gonna
suspicious.
look like a Fed.
Yeah, they all come from the black market. That took me a while to get used to, by the way. I was shocked. I write for a couple magazines. I went to the publisher and I'm like, oh my God, I Googled their name and they have convictions. And he laughed. He said they all do.
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, so culture, expertise, and then it's a matter of just everybody just step back and take a deep breath. It's just an SMB. Okay, that's if you were taking care of agriculture or wineries or liquor store, that's all it is. Do liquor stores have regulations? Absolutely. That's all it is.
So, all right. So these are just SMBs. That's easy enough. So, is there something specific that we should be putting into our marketing when we are going for these Canatech companies?
Yeah. Where I've landed, and I have a large client in the space that I can't name them because they don't want their logo, public for
Sure.
being in the space. But trust me, and what we discovered in working with this client and helping them go to market is lead with security. Now that's not a surprise.
Hmm.
However, Steve, there's two forms of security. There's physical security. I mean, literally, and maybe you've seen in the news, maybe not, but you know, in Seattle and California, smash and grabs, cars backing into a dispensary at 2 a.m., grabbing the flower, trying to grab cash, and then taking off. And so there's physical security, and there's ways to do security hardening, and then of course there's video surveillance. Maybe we kind of put that back on the physical side, and then all the way up through cyber, right? But every SMB has concerns with cyber.
Hmm.
Um, but that's what I would lead with, and I would really emphasize in this line of work. There's two forms of security: physical and IT, cyber. And I think some MSPs may not think that way with clients. Like, wow, I have to kind of orchestrate or be involved in conversations about armed security guards.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know, here in Ohio, for example, where it's medical only, you can't even bring a friend or a spouse in with you. Like if you're like, I don't know, can I bring my spouse in to help me make a decision? They're like, no, no, you can't. You are the only one allowed back here. Like they want to see your ID, they want to see both your driver's license and your medicinal card, and then they'll like buzz you into one door, then they buzz you into another door, but not until that first door completely closes. And then they'll have an ATM because it's an all cash business.
Correct.
It's it's insane to me the level of physical security that they had in place. I worked at a data center, and full disclosure, I had my medicinal card. I had my green card, as some call it. Um, I had a data center where we worked with hospitals, right? We were doing colo for major hospital networks, and the amount of security at that data center was insane, but it still didn't seem as insane as the security that they had at the weed shop.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
and,
Nope,
and
you're
and
thinking the right way.
I'm sure some of that is because it's a cash business. They're going to end up having a lot of cash on hand every day. And even if they only have the day's cash on hand, I mean, you got to think one customer on average is probably minimum $50 to $100, and they've got hundreds of customers every day.
Yeah, and that's also an interesting conversation, and I'm not going to recall the exact numbers, but roughly, uh, there's a lot of um, people who are analysts in a different realm, like B2C, business to consumer, uh, consumer packaged goods, CPG. I don't live in that world, but I talked to someone that I really trust on a recent trip to Denver as CEO of a point of sale software company. And he shared something like, here again in California, and he gets the data, right? Point of sale gets the data.
Mm-hmm.
And the market basket post pandemic and for this, that, and the other reasons, but the market basket's gone. Let's just say you're right. You could typically expect a market basket of $100, and now it's like 30 or 40, right? And this all impacts the economics and the supply chain, right? What goes downhill, right? So no, good point.
So, how do cannabis businesses typically approach disaster recovery and business continuity planning? Is there anything special they need to do uh, above and beyond the typical SMB?
Yeah, they do, and I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but there's three or four or five or six unique elements to the cannabis industry. We talked about physical and traditional, cybersecurity, but the big one, and this is what keeps owners up at night, would be compliance and traceability, right? And so it's like the pharmaceutical industry, man. They have to track every bottle of pills, right? You go to
Yeah.
your pharmacy, they're tracking it. Trust me. And they have to do that. And then if there's a discrepancy, they have to report it to the state cannabis control board immediately. They might get their hands slapped, but not reporting it would be the bigger sin.
Hmm.
And but yeah, compliance and traceability. And in my eyes, that's all technology based, right? That's the point of sale hooking an API and pumping that data up to for example, the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Control Board. That's all tech. And it doesn't happen on its own, right? APIs take a software development kit and then they change. The state of Washington can change their requirements, so you got to redo it. And as they should, they're always changing the regulations based on experience. So a very simple example would be childproof packaging. And you probably saw the popular media that we've had our challenges with mom and dad having liquor, guns, and weed at home, and young kids find it, right? And that's not good. That's not good.
No, it's not. No,
Yep.
it's not. So, what role do you think cloud computing is playing in Canatech?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I had an interesting conversation with a dispensary. I got a recent trip to Colorado. I was in a small town, a ski town, and I went and talked to him, and I kind of played dumb, because when you walk in, you gotta, you just can't blow these people away, right, in a dispensary, and they all come from the lifestyle. So I kind of got to know the guy and kind of played dumb, and the the cloud computing thing is a real issue. There's different ERP, what we call seed to sale systems, different point of sale systems, and so on. But with the cloud computing, he said, we lose connectivity up here in Crested Butte, Colorado. Right, we're in a small ski town, man, 1,800 people, and
I wouldn't even think about
worse.
that.
Yeah, and then worse, it happened on their New Year's Eve. The biggest day of the year in our industry is April 20th. It's called 420. And
Never heard of
yeah, that's true. You stop it.
it.
But the thing is, the systems for the last couple of years have gotten overwhelmed, right? MJ Freeway is a solution in the space, and they're cloud based, and they got overwhelmed. So bottom line, Steve, to answer your question, he was handwriting receipts,
Oh,
right? And then you got to fill out an Excel spreadsheet to track the barcode and this, that, and the other. And so
I'd be livid.
he was interested, and I'm connecting him with one of my clients. He was interested with an on-premises version of point of sale software. He's like, I'm done with that. Now, obviously, it has to at some point sync, with
Mm-hmm.
the state of Colorado and the accounting software and all that. But he really wanted to go back to on-prem. And, Steve, it's like anything in our space. The answer is in the middle. It's going to be hybrid. The answer is going to be in the middle, right? Some kind of on-prem solution with failover in case of the internet goes down. But these are real-world stories.
Wow. Let me look at our time. All right, so we're at 2:57. I got two more things I want us to do. The first one
Sure.
is, do you have any final advice or anything that you want to give to MSPs that are interested in dipping their toes in the industry?
Yeah. I mean, hop on over to my site. I'm not really here to sell you anything, but I do have a site called thecanatechgroup.com, all one word, thecanatechgroup.com. So I have a lot of my research in the magazines that I write for, and logo charts and ecosystem and surveys and all that. So you can start to get your head into it. Start with my site. In fact, some of my research is other sites, right, that you can go to for podcasts and events. We have them, trust me. And then the other thing I wrote about in a book I did, and folks, it's on my site if you want to see it, but it's basically how to be a Canatech MSP. And what I found, and I saw this in Seattle, is start a meetup group, right, called, Cannabis Technology or this, that, or the other. Be the MSP, have the monthly meetup, bring coffee and whatnot. And the one in Seattle grew to, the Canatech group in Seattle grew to 1,600 members. And on any given month, it might have been 200. But that's the watering pond, right? That's my free advice is start a meetup group. It's $25 a month on the meetup.com and become the man or become the woman in this field in your local community. Because Meetup is just a really powerful search engine, right? People are always looking for meetups.
That is a fantastic idea. Thank you for that, Harry. So I have one more thing I want to do. Can I bust your balls for a minute?
Okay.
you got real nervous. I could tell. It won't be too mean, I promise. All right. So I was looking for a headshot for you, and I found this one. Put it up on the screen over me, and I just couldn't help but notice. Are you familiar with Saturday Night Live? You might have heard of it.
Yeah, of course.
So you might have gotten this comparison in the past too. So Will Ferrell has this character, Harry Carey. And here's Harry Carey. And for some reason, I just every time I see your headshot, I just think, oh gosh.
That's that's good. I used to get razzed years ago on PBS. There was a British comedian called Benny Hill.
Yeah.
And
Oh
I
my
used to get
gosh.
razzed that I look like Benny Hill.
Oh, that's too good. I just I just remember, what's your favorite planet? Mine's the sun.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly. Hey, you know what? By the way, Steve, if you can go over, I can go over. I'm just my next call, the gentleman has to reschedule for next week.
oh,
So this is breaking news. Yeah, if you'd
yeah,
like
I
to
got more
continue, I
questions.
have more time. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, man. All right. So you mentioned that there is specific, you said seed to sale type software for Canna. So let me ask you, if an MSP wanted to, I don't know, start becoming an expert in Canatech, is there a few packages? Like, for example, if I wanted to become an expert in supporting law firms, I might want to get really good at LexisNexis, or something like that, right? So is there some software that you recommend MSPs look into?
Yeah, there is. Hold on. Am I able to share my screen
Absolutely.
with your format?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Let
down on the
me,
bottom, if you hit present and then share screen, that'll
okay.
bring it up and give me the option to put it live for you.
Yeah, hang on. Let me bring up some of my research. Folks, while I'm doing that, make yourself familiar with two publications, Marijuana Venture out of Seattle.
Hmm.
Just Google it, free subscription. Tell them Harry sent you. And the other would be Global Cannabis Times out of California. And again, free subscriptions. These are B2B journals, so they're typically free. But you get the magazines, bookmark the site, start hanging out on them. That's how the game's played, and that's how you get into a new thing. Hang on, I'm just about to get there. There we go. What I'm going to show you is some research we're updating. It's darn near coming up on 2 years old, so I'm a little bit embarrassed about that. But um, okay, how do I share again, ma'am?
Down on the bottom, you'll see the button present.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this out of my way. Da, da, da. Come on. It's a Friday.
All good, man. So you mentioned two magazines to look at. I have a third one, probably not as helpful for B2B. It's called High Times.
Yeah, that's more lifestyle.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I never read that. I didn't realize that that was a real magazine until I was much too old to feel comfortable admitting. Um, and the reason for that is I, I don't know. I think I lived under a rock, maybe, or maybe I'm just too much of a goody two shoes. Where I was terrified to like experiment with any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, fair enough. Can you see my brochure?
I can.
Okay, these are a couple of the people on my team. We've actually grown to a board of directors of six board of directors. A name you may know, Jay McBain, an analyst from used to be at
Hmm.
Forrester. He's on my board and smart guy, really helping. Paul Seaborn, who you see there, is a professor. He was at the University of Denver when it went legal. So, we hold ourselves out to be the real deal for
Hmm.
clients. And typically investors or private equity or these OEMs and ISVs. But here's an older chart. Again, this is actually coming up on 2 years old. It's 160 logos. It's going to be over 200 logos this next time. A couple logos have gone away, and there's a couple new ones, like any early stage growth market. But I
Sure.
think you were asking about the what to focus on, and there's a couple challenges. One was I'm circling something in the top center called a Kerna, and
Okay.
a Kerna basically used the Kaseya or ConnectWise strategy. They raised a whole bunch of money, or had a whole bunch of money, and then they went out and started acquiring,
Mm.
point-specific solutions, but they really weren't able to integrate all of their acquisitions very well. Their quality went down. The stock, probably in 2019 might have been like 155, and then it became a penny stock, and then finally they sold themselves to a crypto company. So Akerna's gone, and again, think of it as Kaseya or ConnectWise. So, folks, the word of caution there is, be careful what horse you bet on, right? Nobody got fired for buying IBM, as we always like to joke.
Mm-hmm.
So this industry is the Wild West, but that's part of the challenge. And a couple names that I like that stand out that I think are doing a good job is like right over here, Bright Map on the left. That's an MSP. I think he's out of Delaware, who's also a developer, got in early. So they built a ERP or seed to sales solution, and I found them to be credible. A little more research here, folks, but this is on my site. But these are the players. Now I'm going over to point of sale over on the right, top right,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really impressed with the team over at Kova, point of sale out of Denver, Colorado. The category killer, most installs, great reputation. And then there's one out of Las Vegas that's a traditional point of sale vendor, like amusement parks and that kind of thing. And that's Corona. I'm circling Corona with the letter
Yep.
K. And so those are some places to start your research. But you know what I would do too is right over here on the far right, I'm circling a distributor, pack and pick distributor called Blue Star. So Blue Star is going to behave. I mean, they're much smaller than TD Synnex or Ingram, so they're going to behave a little bit more like D&H distributing, a little bit smaller, but focused on point of sale. And they have a really strong niche in cannabis. So, nothing like talking to your disty, right? Like what's hot and what's not. And but other than that, I don't want to tell your audience you're on your own, but you kind of are. And you just, you need to go to events, you need to read, you need to kind of figure out who's who in the zoo, and then ask for references and so on. Because yeah, you don't want to go with the Kerna and then they're completely gone from the market. That's not a lot of fun. That's called small business server being
Mm.
retired.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, the neat thing to me is, under infrastructure, I see a lot of brands I recognize,
Correct.
but I don't know that I see anything I recognize anywhere else.
Yeah, it's its own vertical, and that
Which
takes
which is
people time.
surprising to me because you think like financial services. When I think financial services, I think of Sage, QuickBooks. Microsoft has that one that I can't put my finger on right now, but there's a lot of financial services platforms that span across multiple industries, but I don't see those listed anywhere on here.
Yeah, and I think on the next chart, again, it's in production. I don't have it in front of me, but I think we added a new category for exactly that, for accounting. And Sage is actually a pretty big player in this space. Great Plains from Microsoft, much less so. Um, Although right up here in the upper left, 365 Cannabis is based on, they reskin Microsoft Dynamics and Great Plains. So all they
Oh,
did was reskin it, and they're a big Microsoft partner, and good on them. But you're right. I believe we have a new bucket called accounting, because financial services here, boy, you
that's more
talk.
like credit cards and that type of.
Yeah, and see, that's where the problem is. People say they can take cards, and they quote unquote can until they get caught.
Mhm.
Um, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to process transactions with what we call off the rails. And you know, that form of pay, it's technically illegal in our space, but you know, nothing like a creative mind, right? Don't underestimate the creative mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people are always pivoting and coming up with new solutions. Excuse me. And they're positioning for the day of federal legalization. All these financial, well, they would argue, but I think the play here with these financial services is to do a land grab right now. And then when safe banking passes and you can use the banking system, they're ready to go, right?
Got it.
They're ready to go that day. So they're definitely investing forward. And again, it's a little nefarious. You know, I've heard it all, you know, where the credit card company miscodes it as floral, like you buy red roses. And they can do that until they get caught, right? And
Yeah.
MasterCard and Visa, they're pretty smart, dude. In fact, they use a thing called AI.
Yeah. So what about regulations, compliance, for the states that are doing medical? Is that technically HIPAA?
Um, I suppose there's some of that. I never really framed it up that way. I have the compliance bucket over here, and metric is one of the big ones. Um, so yeah, I mean, sure, I'm sure there's some HIPAA reporting and so on. I'm not really well versed in that, but compliance to us is all about, you know, tracking traceability, tax calculations, right? The revenue calculations for the state of Washington. That's what compliance means to us. Yeah, we really don't have a huge conversation about privacy with what I'm familiar with. Now, medical may have that, but see, the thing is, in our space, you know, it's first of all, it's not really medical, right? It's not like
Mm-hmm.
they have patient records and, you know, you had this malady and we need to keep those records secure. Um, it's not really that. And the other thing is where you see over here loyalty programs on the far right, just
Mm-hmm.
beneath the center. The big thing in our space is customer loyalty programs, and it kind of comes down to, you know, are you willing to give your phone number and email and identification to the dispensary? And after 10 visits, you get a 10% discount on your next purchase, right? A little bit like a store down, you know,
Yeah.
Safeway or Kroger. You know, you have you type in your phone number. They, you know, they love the data. And in return for your data, they're going to give you a slight discount.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same as seeing your oncologist or cardiologist or your pharmacist. It's just not the same.
So sticking with the medical frame of thought, here's an interesting one for you. Psychedelics.
Hmm.
Now we're not talking cannabis anymore. Have you put any thought or any research into psilocybin or any of that other psychedelics, either for recreational or medical use? Uh, and I ask because it's starting to become a thing, and I think we can thank Joe Rogan for it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a different paradigm. So I'm not spending time there, and it doesn't have the economics. So that's part of it. But the different paradigm
But you
is,
could be on the ground floor.
yeah, yeah. My sister's husband, career emergency room medical doctor in Seattle at the VA, and his specialty is VA mental health. So he is well versed, and he reads journals, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
an academic, and so he's pretty well versed in this area about using microdoses of psilocybin mushrooms to fight anxiety and depression, and that's a thing. That's a thing. Now, it's not a real business opportunity because Global Cannabis Times launched a psychedelics magazine, as publishers do, right? Publishers always want to be in front. And so they're like, wow, this is a great opportunity. What they quickly found out is there's no vendors in the psychedelic space. Like, look at these 160 logos. These people could be buying digital and print ads. And they do. Here, let me see if I can get you my mat. Yeah, here we go. Can you see this? The magazine I write for, Global Cannabis Times. And this is a business magazine. They're just featuring a well-known influencer in the space. But on the back, this is a back ad, very valuable, expensive, for Cannabis ERP. Right? Well, this makes sense. This makes sense that you got to read the magazine and you're in the business and you may be vertically integrated. So those are companies, they're called MSOs, multi-state operators, and they have the grow, the manufacturing, and the dispensary. And some states allow that. Now, that's illegal in the state of Washington. We do not allow vertical integration, but you get the point. There's advertisers. And I was talking to the publisher about their venture, and they're still moving forward. It's just their expectations are managed. But he said, our biggest challenge is there's really no advertisers for the psychedelic space. And he's like, well, that's what we do. I mean, we're a publisher. We sell ads.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, why make a magazine if you can't monetize the thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's all fun and giggle. They're not a church, right, where you just grow and hear the sermon. Or go, excuse me. Well, by analogy, grow. But they're not an academic journal. They have salesmen, they have staff, right? They got to make money. And psychedelics just isn't there. It's still being defined, right? We're still defining what that space looks like and who the big players are going to be.
Awesome. Well, Harry, this has been eye-opening for me. I really appreciate your insights, my man.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on. And this is a long-term play. And I do frequently have that conversation because and I've had it with clients. The clients are like, well, do you think we can sell 3 or 4 point of sale installations this month? And I'm kind of like, it just doesn't work that way, right? This is going to take time to build up your client base in tech. Now, once you do, they're good clients. And Steve, they do have money. I mean, I know we're in a down round and all that, but at the end of the day, they do have money.
That's good. We as MSPs like money.
Yeah. And Steve, if you ever want to do part 2, I mean, I only showed you one piece of my research, right? That's kind of what I do, is logo charts and writing, and that's kind of where I'm the most excited right now in my career. So happy to collaborate with you, come back on, and we could double click into some other topics that might be interesting.
Absolutely. Love that. Did I lose you?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, cool.
No. Good. Well, hey, Harry, thanks for popping on here. Thanks to those of you that watched. And I will catch you guys at the next episode. Take care, everyone.
All right.